Hey folks, I'm Papa Boris, and here we're going to review the 10th game that finished for me in the first Champions Cup for the board game leaders. This one has a little bit of a backstory to it. BatTotoro left a comment on the page of the tournament saying that it was hard that all of the games started at once and asked if there was a way to do it otherwise in future tournaments. And I think it's worth bearing in mind because he is a very strong player. He's over 400 here, which is really, really high. And I think that maybe the difficulty of keeping up with all the games could perhaps be evident in this game, although I admit I am speculating. So Bat starts off with the Brewmaster. I took a peek at the replay from his point of view, and his options were Brewmaster, Rider, and Archer. I would have personally picked the Rider, but the Brewmaster, you could say, is an aggressive move in a sense that in the long term, it may be more powerful than the Rider. So you're kind of gambling that you get some really good characters to synergize with it and allow your opponent to have this fast piece that is maybe not necessarily the most flexible piece. Well, on my turn, I'm going to grab the Vizier because that just popped out, which I really like, and I was going to take the Rider next, but I think the Acrobat's even stronger, so I take the Acrobat as well, and this leaves the Rider for my opponent. And then unfortunately for my opponent, a brick shows up, so he is going to be getting this Rider. Now, after moving the Brewmaster, he actually picks the Assassin, which I think is very, very aggressive, and I'm not a fan of this. I don't think this has to do with the time limits. I think this is just this player values the Assassin way more highly than I do. But with the Archer already out, there are so many good characters still in the deck that if you have like Brewmaster, Assassin, and your opponent gets something good, let's say the Illusionist, and they have like the Illusionist, Vizier, Acrobat, they have a very strong team. I think it's important to leave the Assassin there, take the Rider, and have some mobility. That's my personal preference, so this person is a clearly overall stronger player than I am, so it's important to take my commentary with a grain of salt. Now, I do get very lucky with the Illusionist. I push my leader forward, and I put the Illusionist right here, and I think this is the best place to put it for reasons that we shall soon see. And now my opponent makes an interesting play. He moves the Assassin with the Brewmaster, so that he can move the Assassin again, and he puts the Assassin here. Now we're going to have a little bit of an open-ended puzzle. What do you think about this move? If you were coaching a player and one of your players made this move, what would you tell them about it? All right, my opinion is this. I think that this is a little bit imprecise, and my opponent should have put the Assassin here. Now, you might say maybe he didn't put the Assassin here because then I could swap with the Illusionist, but then the Assassin, is kind of close to my leader, and there aren't any pieces between my leader and the Assassin. On the other hand, of course, the leader could run, but then you're at least forcing the opponent to push the leader to the other side of the board. And if I do swap with the Assassin with my Illusionist, then the Acrobat doesn't have a jump. I could, of course, put the leader here and then jump over with the Acrobat, which is very, very aggressive, but then the Assassin is really close to my leader, and I'm not running my leader away, or at least not yet. I think my opponent maybe was avoiding this swap, but by avoiding that swap, he allows me to make a move that, in my opinion, is even better. First of all, let's take a look at what he recruits. He grabs the Hermit and Cub, which makes perfect sense. It goes well with the Assassin, and it's just a really strong character. But now, I can put my leader here. And if the Assassin had been here, I would not be able to do this. This is also why the Illusionist being here is so important. Now I'm going to swap with the leader, although I could have swapped with the leader from here, but the Illusionist being here maybe discouraged my opponent from parking the Assassin here and preventing this swap. So now it doesn't matter what the order is. I'm going to swap and then jump with the Acrobat, or jump with the Acrobat and then swap. But the important thing is that my leader is now miles away from the Assassin, completely safe, still very slippery thanks to the Vizier. I have this line of characters across the middle and two characters that are very far advanced. Now, if my opponent had put the Assassin here, maybe I would have done the swap. Maybe what I would have done is put my leader here, swapped with it, and then just moved the Acrobat in here. But having the Acrobat be one space closer makes a difference. This is a game of inches. This is a game where one hex can mean the difference between winning and losing, and it often does in a lot of games. So I think that this little bit of positioning gave away an advantage that my opponent didn't need to give away. Now, on my turn, I am very lucky that after my opponent took the Hermit and Cub, the Bruiser popped up, which is, of course, phenomenal. Now, if the Jailer and Protector don't show up, the Bruiser will be unopposed, and my opponent has only one draft left. But the Protector does show up, which is a bit unlucky for my Bruiser, but still, this is very strong. And I put it here. I think this is actually a little bit imprecise. The reason is that if I put it here, there's absolutely nothing my opponent can do to stop me from swapping with the bruiser and then having a really far advanced bruiser. As it is, I give my opponent the opportunity to put the assassin here and block this illusionist bruiser swap. And there was really just literally no reason for me to give my opponent the option to block me like that. Okay, so on my opponent's turn, he moves with his hermit and cub, gets the brewmaster into position, and then he puts the assassin this way. And I'm not sure, maybe he didn't want me swapping with the cub. Maybe this was a block, but I get a little bit lucky because I think what my opponent allows with this line is actually stronger than what my opponent prevents. He does grab the protector, so the rider, which was there at the very beginning, strangely never gets taken in this game, most likely because of this assassin grab. And the protector positioning here is a little bit uncomfortable because if it was over a little more, as we'll see, it would potentially be more relevant. I think my opponent missed this line. So again, this is maybe because of so many games to play all at once. My opponent was, struggling to give each game the full amount of attention, but he missed, and I almost missed this as well, as you're going to see. I do that. I'm like, wait a minute, there's something better. The acrobat can jump in here, and this is relevant because when my vizier moves, it allows my illusionist to swap with the bruiser. So now I have a super advanced bruiser, and then the bruiser can actually go. Like, the bruiser didn't have to move to make this happen. He just gets to go. And by the way, if I had had my bruiser here, I wouldn't have needed to move my vizier out of the way. So if my bruiser had been drafted here, I could have swapped with it, pushed, and then had the vizier be a step up. So right now my vizier is a step behind for no reason. So my opponent and I actually both messed up here. My opponent should have blocked this swap from happening, but I should have had the bruiser here because regardless of giving my opponent the opportunity to block the swap, it would have allowed my vizier to be advanced an extra square. And now there's really no reason for me to be giving my opponent's assassin the chance to just keep going towards my leader like this. I centralize my leader a bit. As you know, I don't like being on the edge of the board too much, and then I pass the turn. So now that the draft is over, we can say I definitely got lucky because all four of my characters are very strong, whereas my opponent has the protector and the assassin, and my characters are further advanced. So I definitely have the upper hand here, and part of it is to do with draft luck. Although I do wonder if my opponent had taken the rider instead of the assassin, if they would have a better situation here. In any case, my opponent gets a little bit over to safety, or doesn't. He then puts the assassin into the hole, moves the protector over, moves the hermit up, and the cub, and then he moves up with the brewmaster. Now, I apologize. I may have made a mistake in commentary. So one thing about this hole that I've left for the assassin is it is a little bit of a fake because my illusionist can just swap with him. Now, I'm not sure what my opponent should have done instead, but it is worth noting if the assassin had been a rider, he could have zipped past this lane and prevented me from doing that swap. Although, of course, then I could have swapped with the hermit, but then still my opponent would have had at least one piece near my leader. As it is, I think that with these minor positional considerations and the just ridiculous power level of the illusionist, who was a top deck for me, being able to swap the leader out to safety, itself into the center, and then another aggressive piece, the bruiser, into the center immediately, that just has a lot of power in this game. And now, once again, the power is just ridiculous because the assassin is just now about as far away from my leader as a piece can possibly get. And because of the placement of this protector, my bruiser actually gets to bruise again. Had the protector been drafted, let's say here, he could have been moved here last turn. Or, I mean, heck, he could have even been drafted there, though, of course, the leader was making its way over, so that's a little bit complicated. But because of the positioning of the protector pick, I'm now able to just bruise the brewmaster and get a bruiser right next to my opponent's leader. I can put the acrobat here. This means that the protector, in order to stop the brewmaster from being bruised again, has to go all the way in the corner. And there's no way for the protector to protect the leader from being bruised. This makes it very, very difficult for my opponent to stave off checkmate. My opponent actually, being a strong player, does find a way to survive here. So what he does is he moves up the assassin. He then kicks the leader with his brewmaster and moves the leader. Then he puts the hermit here. This stops my leader from going here for checkmate. Notice, by the way, if I had put my leader here, I would have actually lost the game, and I did see that during the game, so I was tempted to do this to threaten checkmate, but it actually would have meant I lose, so I had to keep my leader one square away from that. And then he moves the protector and the cub around, but at this point, I mean, there's just no stopping the checkmate. I move away my leader. I bring my pieces in. This is, of course, important to stop the checkmate of the leader and the hermit, but as it is, only one piece can touch my leader, and I don't think it really mattered where I put the illusionist, but I put it here for good measure, so now I'm threatening checkmate by swapping like this. My bruiser and the acrobat are threatening checkmate just by moving. My vizier can go in here for checkmate. I mean, there's really just no end to the checkmate threats. My opponent moves some pieces around, but at the end of the day, it's kind of him to allow me to suffocate his leader with my leader, and that's the game. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.